We are back. The pod is not dead. The pod is very much alive. We're back after a couple of weeks where, life got in the way, Christmas got in the way. We don't owe you an explanation. We're not going to give you one. We're just going to move on. The NFL regular season is in the books. We now know the 14 teams that will be contesting the playoffs and fighting it out for a place in the Super Bowl in Levi's Stadium in February to get their hands on the Vince Lombardi trophy. Eden, we are back, and your team are in the playoffs. My team are not. How are you feeling about your team being in the playoffs, first of all?
I'm overjoyed. I think everything I said came to fruition. It's great to see.
No.
I know
Anyway.
ball. Allah doesn't know ball. Here we go.
We'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but this episode we're gonna stray a little bit from our usual format. We're gonna look at the playoffs as a whole, and as a kind of overview, not so much individual games. But before we talk about the teams that have made the playoffs, we need to talk about the teams that are not in the playoffs and some of the surprise omissions from the playoffs. And there's only one place to start, isn't there? The Kansas City Chiefs have to be the biggest surprise that they're not in the playoffs. The Mahomes injury, at the end of the season kind of compounded things, but they were kind of done before that. And this is unprecedented. We haven't had this for many, many years. Is the dynasty done, or is it just a bad year?
I don't think the dynasty's done per se, because Mahomes and Reed will still be there. But yeah, definitely a down year. And I think what you said at the start of the season, that division was tough, and it showed. Like the Broncos, as we know, have been excellent this year, and the Chargers have been really good as well. So yeah, the Mahomes injury kind of, I think they were done by that point.
It compounded
anyway.
things, didn't it?
Yeah.
It compounded the misery of the season, and is obviously a big factor going into next season. He's going to have to recover over the off season, something that he's never really had a big injury like this, has he? Yeah. So he's had little ones here and there, but he's not really had this scale of an injury, and they just never really got going, did they? We talked sort of after they had a bit of a slow start earlier in the season, and then they won a few games, and when we thought, oh, here we go, same old Kansas City, they're going to turn it on down the stretch. They're going to get some momentum. I even likened them to a robot on Robot Wars, getting up to spinning speed, and that just didn't happen, did it? They just stalled, and as you said, those other two teams in that division really put the pressure on them as well when they were losing games or stalling. They punished the Chiefs, didn't they, by keeping on winning? We'll talk more in depth about particularly the Broncos later, but they just didn't let the Chiefs have any wiggle room really in that division. And it's weird to be going into a playoffs without the Chiefs, but I can't lie, I kind of like it. I don't really hate the Chiefs. I don't, but as a kind of overall NFL fan and as a neutral, it's nice to see some other teams in there for a change. And I'm looking forward to a January without the Chiefs in there.
It makes the AFC playoffs seems much more open without the Chiefs in it, which is really nice. I do wonder, have they kind of lost that aura about them now, where I think the season prior, a lot of those games were one score games. It was just them showing their prestige almost of getting the job done. They weren't really typically great, and they made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, we saw what happened in there. And then this season, it all kind of collapsed and stuff. Going into next season, are teams going to still show them that respect? And how does that unfold? Is it a respect in a sense of playing scared, or going and kind of giving it your all?
Well, I think it's, going into next season, it's a season then where the Chiefs are not the favorites in that division anymore. Like, irrelevant of how the Broncos and the Chargers perform in the playoffs, I think, is a different dynamic now, where for years we've just viewed as the Chiefs as the strongest team in that division. they're odds on every year to win that division. Now, I don't think they are. And it's, time will tell whether, as you said, whether that dynasty is kind of done, or whether it is just a bit of a blip. But yeah, I think definitely it's safe to say that going into next season, they will not be the favourites for that division, and it will be much more open on paper than it has been in previous years. But let's talk about some of the other teams that didn't make the playoffs. The Baltimore Ravens are another big name that didn't make it this year, and they started terribly, didn't they? Their defense was awful. Improved in the middle half of the season, but still not good enough to win big games. There's big questions over Lamar Jackson now after this season. Questions over his big game ability, his ability to win those big games against the big opponents, and more injury troubles for him as well. How do you sum up their season, and where do they go from here?
I think Tyler Poop is getting a lot of blame at the moment, which is pretty unfair because
though.
It's a bad miss, hence why his name's Tyler Poop now. But it's one of those things where you can't just chalk that up to their season to a missed field goal. I mean, how many games did they leave on the table? How many touchdowns did they leave on the table? Lamar's not really been Lamar this season, if we're honest. He was great, obviously, and put his team in position to win. But, I mean, they still had time on the clock. Do you think kicking it there was the right decision? It's hard to say.
Yeah, I do. I think you have to put the onus on the opposition to come back and make something happen there. But yeah, as you said, he had a good game against the Steelers, Lamar. But there are questions over him on that. As you said, he's not really been himself this season, particularly in those big games, and he's had more injury troubles now as well, which is, they've had to go to Tyler Huntley at times. There's another guy, I forget who else has played quarterback for the Ravens. That hasn't helped them this season, obviously, but they should be a good enough team and I think the biggest concern for this team was the defense, because traditionally we're used to the Ravens having an excellent defense. It's been passed down from years since the Ray Lewis era. It's kind of been a really solid defense year upon year. And this season, particularly at the start of the season, they were awful. They were the worst defense in the NFL, I think, through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And then they did change that system. I forget the safety they brought in, which kind of that mobile slot safety that they traded for, which kind of gave them a little bit more mobility to play a more cover 3 defense, and that seemed to help them. But yeah, they just haven't won enough big games, have they? And they haven't stepped up in those big moments. I think Derrick Henry's had a quieter year than we're used to as well. So yeah, it just hasn't really happened for the Ravens this season, is it?
Similarly to the Chiefs, I'm actually strangely glad they're not in the playoffs, because it's almost a bit boring as well. I don't find Ravens Lamar is electric, but I don't find their football particularly that entertaining recently. Then again, the Steelers won't exactly be exciting. I guess it's funny because it's Rodgers, and that's kind of interesting, and their defense.
The AFC North is a great division if you like defense, apart from the Bengals. Traditionally anyway. The Steelers have always had a good defense. The Browns have a great defense. Obviously, Myles Garrett breaking the sack record this week as well. If you love defense, that's the kind of things you like to see. So it's always been a gritty, hard-nosed football kind of division, isn't it? And
even the Bengals used to have a good defense with Perfect and Pac-Man Jones, and they're just they're just all on the offense now, aren't they?
So let's move on then to one I'm sure you're keen to talk about. The Lions miss out on the playoffs. Despite a winning record, they finished 4th in the NFC North, which we talked about a lot ahead of the season. And we said that this division could end up in all of those teams could end up in all 3 of those spots. I have to give you your flowers. You called it. I don't think it's been the capitulation that you kind of predicted. I don't think they've been as bad as you kind of thought. Yes, they have finished bottom of the division, but I don't think they've been like, the offense has been good. Jared Goff's been good this season. Tough division, but I think this is where the difference has been made. Against their divisional opponents, they're 2-4.
Yeah.
And against teams 500 or more, they're 2-7 this season. So they've not found a way to beat good teams, and that's, I think, where they've come unstuck in a division where, you know, all three of those of their opponents are pretty good teams and have all finished with a winning record.
Yeah, I think my sentiment at the start of the season was that they would not be horrendous and it wouldn't be a capitulation, but they wouldn't meet those same levels because of the new coaches coming in. And I mean, if you think about it this way, their record would get them top of the NFC South, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. It's just a matter of that division. And exactly that stat you brought up, they won two, lost 4 division games or whatever.
Yeah, 2-4, yeah.
You're right. So
and obviously the Lions, the second Bears one was this week, where the Bears didn't rest guys, but it kind of felt like a preseason game a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things. We said it throughout the preseason. It'll be a super competitive division. My sentiment was the Lions got worse and everyone got better. I think the Packers have been somewhat disappointing, but they're in the playoffs. But yeah, we thought it'd be competitive. I didn't think the Lions would capitulate per se, but yeah, the coaching is everything, and they lost. They lost Coach of the Year candidate in Ben Johnson. Now Aaron Glenn's not kind of met the standard, but there we are.
They just seem to have not put together enough complete performances. If they weren't like one week when the offense is firing, the defense has been given up point, kind of like the Cowboys do. They kind of play to the level of their opponents, it seems, every week. And you know, when the offense is firing, the defense has been off. When the defense is firing, the offense hasn't been there, and they just haven't been able to put together enough complete performances, really. And it's a shame, because we thought this team were on a bit a really good trajectory under Dan Campbell to kind of be one of the, and everyone was kind of rooting for them when they, outside of their divisional opponents, who, you know, their divisional rivals. I think the rest of the NFL was kind of rooting for the Lions to really do something, and it doesn't feel. I'm not saying they're dead and buried. It might just be, you know, it's not even a bad year. They've finished with a positive record. They just haven't made the playoffs. And
I think they just need a new OC. I was speaking to our Lions mate, and he said the offense is so boring and predictable now. Whereas Ben Johnson, it's super creative and leaving defenses on their toes, and it's just the opposite now. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, another one of those teams who are not in, and I've got written down here. How have the Colts not made the playoffs after the start of the season that they had? Well, I can tell you exactly why. 7 losses in a row to end the season. A total, talk about a capitulation. This has been a complete capitulation from the Indianapolis Colts, who were the surprise package through the first half of the season. Really, they were outstanding. They seemed to just, every week they were firing on all cylinders. The defense was red hot, getting after every quarterback. The offense, Jonathan Taylor was leading the rushing stats. Daniel Jones looked like he had a renaissance at quarterback with his new team, and then, you know, they end the season having to bring back Phillip Rivers to play. I will caveat that with, I think the Colts suffered 2 big injuries on the offensive line. One to Quentin Nelson, I think, which really hampered the running game. They're then playing rookies, and I think then that has a knock-on effect. And, you know, we talked about the Colts probably not having a huge amount of talent, especially at wide receiver position. And that probably, when you put more pressure on the passing game with that offensive line not able to open up holes as they were for the run, that's probably where it's kind of fallen down for me, I would say.
Yeah, obviously losing Daniel Jones was a massive hit for the team. It's just it's one of those things where at the start of the season we didn't really think very much of them, and they probably surprised a lot of teams that they came across. They're heavily reliant on Jonathan Taylor, and obviously if they lose the O-line to injuries, that's obviously going to impact his game. Of course, it is a competitive division as well. So
yeah,
I mean they almost beat the Texans this week, and with their record, had they beat the Texans this week, I don't know if still, regardless of winning or not, they would probably be top of the NFC South as well. So it just goes to show, like it does come down to divisions rather than record.
Well, similarly to the Lions, they had a 2-4 record against their divisional opponents, 2-8 against teams 500 or more. So again, it was an inability to win those. And to be fair, a lot of those games against the 500 plus teams came in that 7-game losing streak, and a lot of those divisional games as well came in that 7-game losing streak at the end of the season when Daniel Jones was out and when they had those injuries on the offensive line. But yeah, I think maybe it just shows that there's not enough depth to this team to really sustain that level that they came out with, and once the injuries hit, and that's fine, that's where they are in their cycle at the moment, and I'm sure they'll go away and evaluate where they need depth, and they'll be happy with what they produced at full strength at the start of this season, and will look to add depth pieces in the off season. But final team, just quickly, just to round off, that was maybe less of a surprise, but we're still surprised as well with the caliber of quarterback they have. The Bengals miss out on the playoffs again after another disappointing year. With, I think, a big opportunity in that division this year, with the Ravens not really firing. The Steelers were hot and cold throughout the season. It wasn't the best division in football. There was an opportunity there. More injuries to Joe Burrow this season, and the defense was horrible. Zach Taylor's survived for the moment. Do you think he should have survived? What do they call it? Black Monday after the season ends.
I thought he got sacked. Maybe it was someone else.
It was Stefanski for the Browns.
Stefanski. Okay. Yeah. No, it was really interesting. I don't know if you saw in our chat, couple Bengals fans talking about the team, and I didn't realize the level of broke the Bengals are comparatively. Like Zach Taylor's on $4.5 million a year, and they can't even get rid of him. That sounds mad. They've put all their eggs in the Burrow, Chase, and Higgins basket. Can't afford to do anything else. It's not a super. I mean, we say it's not a tough division. It kind of is. Obviously, the records don't show that, but it's always competitive in the AFC North, and that's on a game by game basis. Like when these teams play each other, it's really hard to predict. So, I don't know what's coming up for the Bengals. To be honest, Burrow seems to be checked out. So, wait and see.
Yeah, and let's move on to some surprise packages then, who are in the playoffs. And the biggest surprise is definitely the Carolina Panthers, who dramatically reached the playoffs for the first time since 2017. They clinched the NFC South after beating the Bucs in Week 18, and then relying on the Falcons beating the Saints. And it came down to whoever was the winner of that game decided it between the Bucs and the Panthers who would win that division. 3 of those teams finishing on an 8-9 record. I mean, we'll come on to the division in a second, but it has to be said, a great job done by Dave Canales this season, and kudos to Bryce Young as well. We've talked a lot about, his rookie season was tough and him showing resilience and coming back, and he has done that, hasn't he? But I don't think this team is going any further than the wildcard round, unfortunately.
No, I don't think so either. I think they've got a bright future. I like it. Bryce Young's probably never going to be incredible, but the kid's got heart. Seems like a really nice kid. Plays well in stretches, and the coach is an excellent coach. So they've got a lot of positives, and Congratulations for making the playoffs, Panthers fans. First time they've won their division. Same with Jacksonville, and both are the most new teams in the NFL. 1995.
The Texans are the newest team, aren't they? 2002.
No, Jacksonville and Carolina came in the expansion draft in 1995.
The Texans are the 2002.
But I think I don't know if it works the same because it's a relocation, I suppose.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Or
a rebranding or whatever.
Yeah, an existing team that moved. Yeah, I see what you mean. Let's talk about this division. I mean, it is horrible. You three teams finish it. No teams finishing with a winning record. And just such a huge choke by the Bucs, this division. It's just, I want to say well done to the Panthers, but this division is awful, isn't it? And this is the second time, by the way, that in 2022 the Bucs won it with a losing record as well. So this is the second time in the space of 3 years that the division has been won with a losing record. It just doesn't seem to be getting any better, does it? The Falcons just seem so fraudulent. Like, Jesus. we thought that both of us thought they would be pretty good this year because they have all these weapons and they have two fairly competent quarterbacks. Whether they should have two or not is a different story. Just a very strange division. You thought the Bucs would run that division, but I think obviously kind of rose-tinted glasses here. I think Baker Mayfield losing Liam Cohen in his ear as an offensive coordinator had a significant impact. Just new play calling maybe doesn't work as well, doesn't suit Baker as much. They've had injuries. There's been things here and there. They had a big illness that hit their camp around about week 12, week 13, I believe, around about that, which is right about the start of when they really started to capitulate. And I think that has had a big impact this season. But you can't, you have to have more depth than that in a division that is so poor. You have to, and it came down to, they could have won it again. If they beat the Panthers in week 18, they win it. So, it's all about it. It's not a good one for the Bucs. But let's talk about the Chicago Bears then as well. I'm putting this down to a surprise package. We thought we were optimistic about the Bears coming into this year. We talked a lot about the NFC North, obviously, and as we said, any of those teams could have won it. But I probably wouldn't have put my money on the Bears winning it.
I think we both thought they'd finish fourth. That's what I remember. I think I predicted fourth for the Bears.
Yeah. So. And what a job by Ben Johnson, as we mentioned. First year as a head coach. And this team has really grown over the course of the season, haven't they? I've been so impressed with them. They've just got a really well-balanced team, haven't they? From, you look at the offense, the run game's been strong all season. Manungai coming in has been outstanding. They've got weapons at wide out. Colston Loveland's been a nice pickup in the from the draft last year. Keeping Cole Kmet, who is a pretty well-established tight end, out of that position, that's no mean feat. And then, you got the likes of DJ Moore and Rome Odunze's stepped up a little bit this year, and then the defense has been outstanding. They've led them, haven't they? They've taken the ball away from opponents. They've got the most takeaways in the NFL, and then they're handing that to their offense. And their offense, as the season went on, began to take advantage of that and turn that into points. Yeah,
and I think previous seasons, I think this season has shown. Caleb Williams got a lot of hate. Probably because he's just a bit zesty and a bit of a weird guy. The kid can play. Like, he is a good quarterback, and it's nice to see him with a fantastic offensive mind to play to his skill set. And the Bears are rolling. They could go on a run. They're a really good team.
Yeah, another perhaps surprise package, and not that they made the playoffs, but that they won the division, is the New England Patriots, who, probably nobody really fancied to win that division, and nobody really fancied to get the second seed in the AFC. they've been mightily impressive this season, haven't they? I mean, I know we'll talk about the Bills a little bit later on, and they probably haven't been at their best this season. But it has to be said, the Patriots, again, Mike Vrabel's first year there as well as head coach, has made an instant impact, and Drake May has just been outstanding, hasn't he?
It still surprises me, kind of looking at their team, how they've managed to be so good. I know a lot of people kind of turn to their schedule perhaps and go, oh well, they've not really beaten that many good teams. They are a very well balanced team. But there's not really a lot of superstars on that team. Drake May is in the MVP running, so obviously you could probably classify him as a superstar now. But still surprising me how good they are, and it's just a well-balanced attack. Variables coached them up well. He's always been a solid coach when he was with the Titans and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on then to brings us in nicely to talk about the 1 seeds in each of the respective conferences. And if you told me at the start of the season that the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks would have been the 1 seeds in each conference, I wouldn't have believed you. Again, it's a similar story. You know, we were optimistic about these 2 teams coming into the season, but they have blown our expectations out of the water, really. They've both been incredible. Let's start with the Broncos. The defense has led them, but the offense, again, has been patient and measured, and they've protected the ball well. Bo Nix has, without being spectacular, has protected the football well, and he's just worked his way down the field, hasn't he? And allowed his defense to help him. From week 4 to week 15, they won 11 games in a row. And I think massive credit as well has to go to Sean Payton and Vance Joseph for the job that they've done as coordinators, and obviously Sean Payton as head coach this season shows his experience and his capabilities, and Vance Joseph as well. Vance Joseph, by the way, arguably the best defensive coordinator in the NFL right now. Played as a quarterback and a running back, didn't even play on defense.
That's strange.
So that's even more impressive for me. But yeah, a word on the Broncos. They've been outstanding, haven't they?
Yeah, really good team. I agree kind of what you're saying is, for me, the Broncos are summarized with an excellent defense, great defensive coach. And I still don't think the offense on paper, good O-line, but I don't think that it's anything crazy. No. I just think Sean Payton is brilliant. And I don't think Bo Nix is incredible. I think he's better than a game manager, but he's kind of, he's got a ceiling, if you know what I mean. He's not this massive quarterback with huge arm strength or electric quick. He's just a balanced player. And Payton's playing to his strengths, and they're rolling as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, similarly, then the Seattle Seahawks have come out on top against a brutal division, really. It's easily been the most difficult division in football, the NFC West this season. They won 7 games in a row to end the season, including games against the 49ers and the Rams. And they've been great on the road as well. Their road record is 8-1 this season. Sam Darnold's been excellent, and it's been a breakout year, hasn't it, for Jackson Smith and Jigba, who we thought would step up with the absence of Metcalf and Lockett this season, and he certainly has, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's excellent, and their defense, especially the DBs, it's like the Legion of Boom again. That is so good, really good defense, and I'm surprised how good Darnold's been. I kind of didn't think he would match the Vikings level Darnold we saw last season, but he has, and they've won a very difficult division, so got to give them their flowers.
Yeah, Sam Darnold over 4,000 passing yards this season, and 25 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. So really not a bad return at all. And it seems in that stretch, that 7-game winning streak, they seem to have opened up the run game a lot more than they did in the first part of the season. They were struggling a little bit in the first half of the season with the running game, or weren't maybe calling enough run plays or calling the right run plays. But Kenneth Walker and Zach have really made an impact, haven't they, the last couple of weeks, and going into the playoffs, that's going to be a really important element for this offense.
Yeah, it's interesting you said when you said the statistics of Darnold, that's actually, it doesn't blow me away. It's solid, and I think they've gotten a good return for that contract. But I don't know what that was like comparatively to the Vikings season he had the prior year, but solid return. That's what they needed, just someone to kind of steady the ship, lean on the run game, and use Jackson Smith and Jigba, which he certainly is, and let the defense do what the defense does. So,
yeah, and I think in fairness, in the last sort of the second half of the season, they've used Charbonnet near the goal line a lot more. Kenneth Walker as well. So, when you get near the goal line, those touchdowns, those touchdown numbers aren't going to be as strong as earlier in the season when they seem to be bombing it down the field a lot more.
Yeah.
Obviously, teams adjust. They'll play more deep coverage against a team who has a really deep threat, and then that does open up the run game as well. And interceptions, you kind of always get a few that are tipped by a receiver or tipped at the line or something that is not the quarterback's fault necessarily. So yeah, really solid numbers for Sam Darnold. And we talked about the defense having that old school Seattle Seahawks feel, that Legion of Boom feel. And they do feel like, I'm not saying they're as good as that team necessarily, but it does have the feel that this defense is a proud defense, and they take what they do really, really seriously. And they want to be that kind of Legion of Boom and leave their own legacy as a defensive group. And that, by the way, is being led by the defensive coordinator who is a Brit, Aidan Derd.
Yes, is he really?
Yeah, defensive coordinator, played for the London Olympians, played for the Scottish Claymores, played for the London Warriors, I think, or coached the London Warriors.
I have no idea.
From Middlesex, Aidan Derd. So Shout out to Aidan Derd. He's doing a fantastic job. No wonder they're so
hard hitting. Like that's brilliant, amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and obviously it's a big deal for us on this side of the pond, loving the sport that we do and playing the sport that we do. It shows that we do have a good culture here and good coaches, good players who can really achieve good things in the NFL. So let's move on to the playoffs then. We're gonna talk about it in a kind of general sense. Like the Buffalo Bills against your Jacksonville Jaguars, the Los Angeles Chargers against the Patriots, the Texans against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then in the NFC, the Rams against the Panthers, the Packers against the Bears, and the 49ers against the Eagles. What games, apart, we'll talk about the Jags in a sec, what games out of those are standing out to you as being potentially some of the best matchups?
Packers versus Bears is a very cool game, just traditionally. I think that's the game to watch, just solely based on tradition, the atmosphere. It will be at Soldier Field, I imagine. Yes, so that's going to be incredible. Really exciting for Chicago because they've not been good. And they have had a strong fan base for years and years and years. So I'd say that's the game to watch.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Definitely in the NFC, and then I think that the best game in the AFC is that Jacksonville Jaguars Buffalo Bills game, because you come into this game in great form, the Jags. Trevor Lawrence has been outstanding in the last couple of weeks of the season, amongst others, of course, as well. And Liam Cohen, similarly to, the Bears, the Jags have kind of grown into that season. Obviously, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, still working things out. And like Caleb Williams has done with Ben Johnson, it seems Trevor Lawrence is doing with Liam Cohen as well. And, I was critical of Trevor Lawrence and the Jags sort of towards the middle part of the season. And I still have reservations. We'll see how he does in the playoffs. But I have to give credit where credit's due. They've been outstanding in the last couple of weeks. And coming into this game, I think you're favourites. I really do. I think the Bills are there for the taking. Obviously, Josh Allen's a huge factor, and these are the kind of games he turns up in. So your defense is going to need to be ready to shut him down. But yeah, I think this in the AFC at least is the game to watch. I think you look at some of the other games. The Rams and the Panthers. I don't give the Panthers too much chance in that one, if I'm being totally honest. I look the Chargers against New England. I would love the Chargers to do well, but I just don't trust them in the playoffs because they never seem to be able to make it past the first round. And I think that the Houston Pittsburgh game's interesting. I think that, and we'll come on to this, but I think the Texans are very good, and I think they win that game quite comfortably. But it is Aaron Rodgers and it is Mike Tomlin, so you can never be sure.
Just to go back to the betting favorite is the Bills, despite us being at home, the higher ranked team. Arguably, I've obviously been watching a lot of stuff, and a lot of analysts think we are the better team. Like we are the more well-balanced team, but I think it comes down to Josh Allen. But then again, they are very heavily reliant on James Cook. James Cook's the leading rusher in the NFL. Do you know the defense he comes across this week is the number one rushing defense in the NFL? So it's almost like two titans.
And we'll get on to predictions, and I'll give you my thoughts in the kind of prediction section. But
looking forward to
it. Absolutely, it is that is a mouthwatering matchup. And then on the other side, I think the Eagles against the 49ers has obviously the Eagles coming in as reigning champions, probably been a bit underwhelming this season. And the 49ers I really like the 49ers this season. I think with what they've dealt with to get to this point of the season has been outstanding. Their injuries to the key players has just been endless throughout that season. In the most brutal division in the NFL, they've kept up with the Rams and the Seahawks, and they've put themselves in a great position now. And I think that's a really tough game for the Eagles, despite the Eagles being at home.
Yeah, the thing with that matchup, for me, and I know not a lot of people will share the opinion, but I think Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy are the examples of elite game managers. Brock Purdy can move with his feet and stuff like that, doesn't have all the traits to be an elite quarterback. I don't think that's unfair to say. And the same with Jalen Hurts. They're good at what they do, and they put their team in a position to win. Not always, but they don't lose their team games. But that's the Eagles' biggest reason why they are such a boring team, is because it's hand the ball off to Saquon, rely on the defense. I'm not going to make any risky throws. I'm not going to lose the game. So, yeah. Not really a mouth-watering matchup, if I'm honest.
Let's bring that on then to our dark horses for this playoff. Before we get into our predictions, and we'll make our kind of bracket predictions. Who have you got as kind of a dark horse for the play? I think I know who you're going to say, but who have you got as a dark horse?
I mean, I am going to say Jacksonville. Yeah. Do you want another team besides Jacksonville?
You can, yeah. But you can give us your reasons for the Jags first.
I think we've constantly been playing all year with a chip on our shoulder that we are the underdogs, and that's going to continue throughout the entire playoffs. Everyone's going to come up for a reason why we're a kind of fairy tale and shouldn't be here, sort of thing. And Liam Cohen is going to eat into that and feed that to his players. And I've watched Rich Eisen earlier, and he's already brought up the fact that the Bills are the betting favourites and we're at home, and he's definitely been telling the team that, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of people, and arguably I think we're playing against the hardest opponent we will face in the playoffs this year. First round, and we're at home. If we can beat the Bills, I think the confidence will go through the roof, especially for Trevor. If Trevor plays well on Sunday, then he'll go, well, I've shown the Broncos what I can do. I've shown the Bills what I can do. So whoever he comes, he's already beat the Chargers. So bring it on, sort of thing. So yeah, I think we are a dark horse, but it's hard to say we're a dark horse because I do think we are getting respect in certain kind of media outlets and things like that. Not everyone.
Yeah, you a dark horse in the every team in the playoffs is a good team, but I don't think you're one of the favourites out of the playoff team, so it does make you a dark horse. For my AFC dark horse, I'm gonna stick in the same division. I'm gonna go with the Texans. I think this is a real good football team. Best defense in the NFL against the least yards given up by the defense anyway. I think the third or fourth most takeaways as well by a defense. So they again.
How many points did they concede to Riley Leonard last week?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This is a really good football team. I think obviously being led by that defense, and I know you don't rate CJ Stroud as highly as I. We're kind of, maybe I think about Trevor as you think about CJ Stroud. Maybe, I don't know, but the point is I rate CJ Stroud a lot higher than you, and I think he's had players who have stepped up this season. When Nico Collins has missed time, Jaden Higgins has really stepped up for this team. Woody Marks has stepped up for this team. In the run game, and I think they're a really solid outfit. With the likes of Nick Chubb there as well at running back, that kind of experience, and I think they have a probably slightly easier path than you if you beat the Bills. We'll get on to predictions in a sec, but I'm looking at that game, and I think if they beat the Steelers, they then go on to play the winner of the Chargers and the Patriots, and I think that's an easier path than going through the Broncos. So I think they're one to watch, definitely. Who's your other team that you had in mind?
My other team that I had in mind was the Packers, because I don't know. I just have this strange affiliation with the Packers where I feel like they have that prestige where they can go on and kind of win, and they're not really being spoken a lot about. I think Jordan Love is great. I think their coach is fantastic. They lost Micah Parsons, which was kind of a huge hit, but they are a well-built, balanced team. And I think why I say them is, I'm not going to say the Packers and then, the Panthers, and then every other NFC team. I can't really think of one that would be classified as a dark horse. So, like, who else would you call a dark horse in that?
So my one for the NFC, and yeah, I get what you're saying. My one would be the 49ers, because they're not.
Are they a dark horse?
Well, I think, they're obviously, they've not ended up in one of the one or two spots. They haven't won the division. A lot of the years when they have been challengers, they've either been in the 1 or 2 seed usually, and have been one of the leading teams in the NFC. They haven't this year. They've kind of gone under the radar a little bit, I think. And just going back to the point I made earlier, they have had so many injuries to key guys throughout the season, where it would have been completely understandable if the 49ers, I think around week 7, week 8, week 9, when they had that week where they went and beat the Rams at SoFi when they were decimated with injuries, was just incredible. And if around that time they just lost 5, 6, 7 games on the bounce because of those injuries, we would have sat here and gone, you know what? It's not a great season for the 49ers, but what can you do with that amount of key players injury? And nobody would have been too worried about it, because they would have been, apart from firing all of the athletic staff, training staff, by the way, they need to go. I think, I don't know who they've got there. I think it's Dr. Nick from The Simpsons or something. A witch doctor is there, because they keep getting injured. I don't know what they're doing, but the resilience that team has shown to keep pace with those other 2 teams in the NFC West, get themselves into the playoffs, and now they're getting all of those guys back. I think it's a really scary proposition for the teams in that NFC South, because they've shown that they've got the mentality and the resilience to fight through their adversity and beat teams like the Rams in their own back garden when their chips are down for them. So I think they're a real scary proposition in this playoffs.
You know what? I actually, after hearing all that, I kind of agree with you, because and it boils down to how good Shanahan is. Like, he's just dealing with all those injuries. He's dealt with Ayuk, who just seems like a massive prick now, and he's just got the job done and got his team into the playoffs.
So let's do our bracket then. So starting with the Buffalo Bills against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think I know who you're going to pick, but who are you picking?
I'm going to be biased and pick the Jags, although it might be very wrong.
I think you are totally vindicated with feeling confident this week. And I think you should be favourites for this game. I think everything on paper tells me that the Jags should win this game. The form that you're in, the fact that the Bills have been underwhelming this season, the fact you're at home.
They don't have a kicker, by the way.
Sorry?
They don't have a kicker at the moment. I think the backup kicker is now injured. I had a Bills mate message me. He's like, we don't have a kicker this week. So.
Well, what I'm about to say is going to piss you off even more then, because I think you, by the end of this week, and I said this to you earlier in the week, you will understand why I hate the Buffalo Bills so much, right? Because I can just see a scenario where the Jags are the informed team. Everyone's rooting behind them. You're at home. It's a great atmosphere in Duval, and it's a back and forth game. You get ahead, and then Josh Allen does something to bring them back into it and finds a way. And they just keep pace, and then their defense gets a stop, and then Josh Allen goes down the field and they kick a walk-off field goal and beat you.
Totally
I can just see that happening, and you'll be sat there at the end of the week going, how have we lost to this team? They're not even. You'll go, this team are not even that good, and that is where I have been. Not this year, but the last couple of years against the Bills, when we've lost the walk-off field goals or we've lost the last-minute things, and I'm sitting there going, we're a better team than this team. What is happening? But Josh Allen, he's the MVP for a reason, reigning MVP for a reason. The guy is a stud, and he gets it done. And I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I really want you to crush them, and I want Buffalo tears on my breakfast cereal on Sunday morning or whenever the game is.
Do you want to?
I just think. Go on.
My nightmare scenario is something similar to that, and I have this gut feeling. And atmosphere is everything. And we are a small market team, and the Buffalo Bills are kind of a small market team, but their fans just travel. And I'm really worried about how much red and blue is going to be in that stadium and the impact that will have on momentum and all these things. And the biggest thing will be how those local fans turn up. Are they going to be loud when Josh Allen's on the field? Because I think that's going to have a huge impact on the game. But yeah, nightmare scenario is this like kicker they get off the street or something. Just
and the NFL script writers have got it in, haven't they? It's just whoever this guy is.
Josh Allen and Bucky, no one knows, kicks him.
An old baseball player or something, or some guy who's 50. Makes like a 50-yard. Yeah, I know. It's Let's hope not. But let's move on then to the Chargers against the Patriots. Who have you got for this one?
It's tough. It really is tough. I'd love to see Justin Herbert put on a show and all these things, but it's in Foxborough. I think Drake May's equally as good. That team is so balanced. I think I'd be daft to say anyone but the Patriots, although in my heart, I want the Chargers to win.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I'd love to see the Chargers go on a run. I think Justin Herbert deserves it. I think, and we've been waiting to see something from this team the last few years, but I just don't trust them in the playoffs. They've got the guys, Hampton's back, and a lot of the key guys are back, which is big for them.
Is their O-line back?
No, they're
No.
I mean, Slater's out, Alt's out, I think, for the rest of that, which are huge misses, and we'll talk about them at the end of the season when we're reviewing their season. But yeah, I just don't trust them. And as you said, the game's in New England, the weather could be favourable towards the Patriots as well. That could be a big factor. So, Ramondre Stevenson was excellent against us last week as well. He seems to be warming up at the right time for them. So yeah, reluctantly, I am picking the Patriots as well in this one. Steelers against the Texans. I've told you my opinions on this one. Really, I think the Texans win this game. I think it'd be a pretty well fought battle, but I'm just not that convinced by the Steelers this season. And I think that defense for the Texans is excellent, and they'll handle Aaron Rodgers. And the offense will do enough to get it done against a pretty shaky Steelers defense, to be honest.
I think it's going to be a super low scoring game. I think Rodgers is going to get swallowed up by the Texans D line because he's so immobile. So immobile. CJ Stroud, I'm not that keen on. I think the Steelers could actually stop their offense quite a few times. It will be low scoring. It is in Pittsburgh, so you know what? For the sake of it, I'm going to give me the Steelers because I'd love to see it.
Right. Okay. Moving on to the NFC, the Rams against the Panthers. I mean, I think we're pretty confident that the Rams are going to win this game. I think it could be ugly as well. If I'm being honest, there's kind of a soft underbelly to this Panthers defense, and I think Bryce Young and the offense will put up a really good fight, but I just don't see them getting anywhere near the scoring power of the Rams really in this game.
I think it'll be a gut punch. You're looking like towards the end of the second quarter, and it'll be like 24-0, and
Stafford's coming out of the game.
Yeah, something like that. So, unfortunately, I'd love to see the Panthers do well, but it just doesn't seem realistic.
Green Bay, Chicago. This was the one that we said we're probably most looking forward to. How do you see this one going?
I know I said the Packers were my dark horse, but if I'm objectively looking at this game, it's in Chicago. The Bears are rolling. Yeah, it does seem to be looking like a Bears win, if I'm honest.
And they've split the series so far between these two teams, which is interesting as well. So this is the third game between the two teams, obviously, this season. And this will be the decider. So, you can't even point to one and say, oh, well, they've beaten them twice. They've kind of got their number this season. And I think the scorelines were fairly similar either way between these two teams. So it is really evenly matched. I'm giving it to the Bears as well. I just think the Packers, I think, are probably the more talented team, even without Micah Parsons. But they've just been a tad inconsistent this season, haven't they? Probably not shown the firepower that they came out with at the start of the season. They've had some really inconsistent moments. Don't get me wrong. I think Jordan Love is great. I think he's an elite quarterback for the future. He does have a few shaky moments at times.
Yeah.
And I think the Bears are just, as I said, they're just warming up really nicely. Ben Johnson's gonna have something going for this game. And the 49ers, Eagles, who have you got for this one? We kind of went over it, but you predicted a low scoring, kind of boring game in this one.
Yeah, so I do think it will be a low scoring game, Eagles 49ers. It is in Philadelphia, so this one is really hard to predict, to be honest. Just because of home field advantage, give me Philly. But I do think the 49ers might be a better team.
Yeah, I'm going 49ers all the way on this one. I think you looked at the kind of underlying data of the Eagles this season. It's not been great, and I think that will catch up to them in the playoffs against these better teams. They've had a pretty bad division this year. The Cowboys have been poor. The Giants obviously lost Scatterbo and Dart for a large part of the season, and the Commanders have not been anywhere near where they were last season. So they've had a pretty easy run in, and I think the 49ers win this one. I'm going to say fairly comfortably because it is the Eagles and they are good at home, and Lincoln Financial Field's a tough place to go and it's an intimidating place to go. But I do think they win by a touchdown or maybe 10 points, something like that. I think the 49ers, as I said, are my dark horses. I think they could go on a big run, and I think they could be in the Super Bowl at their home stadium come February.
If the game was in San Fran, I'd say the 49ers will blow them out. But because it's not, it'll be a close affair, and I think the Philly atmosphere might help Philly, and they're Super Bowl champions. So it's just one of those things.
Just one other thing to mention before we go then. The viewers might remember at the start of the season, Eden and I did a predictions every week for the game. We didn't do it on the pod necessarily, but we did it internally. And that has now finished. We've completed the regular season. I mean, Eden, you've offered me double or quits as well, which I will take if you're still offering it, because you did win the regular season 145 to 142 in the end. So congratulations. But we'll extend it into the playoffs, shall we, for a bit of fun. The forfeit that we decided on was that we live, for those of you who don't know, we live around about 230 miles apart now. So our forfeit is the loser has to get the coach to the other person. So it's a bit of a forfeit because round trip, by the way, you have to get the coach back as well. Bit of a forfeit because it's a long coach journey, but we get to see each other as well at the end of the season, which will be nice. But yeah, I've got to make up some ground. I'm 3 behind. Initially thought I was 1 behind, but I miscalculated it, and I'm actually 3 behind.
Do you want to reset it for the playoffs? I'm happy to reset it.
Well, no. You're all good. You're all good. We'll. It's all fair in predictions and war. So we'll leave it there for this week. Enjoy the games this weekend. This is the best time of the year, isn't it? Playoff football. Playoff football is back. The only bit I hate about it is we are nearing the end of that awful period where we haven't got any NFL for 5-6 months, whatever.
But that's
it is.
when we start to play, mate. That's
I know.
The thing. Football never ends for us. For all these Americans, it does, but not for us.
Not for us. Yeah, our season starts then. So yeah, enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll see you again after the first wildcard round to discuss them. And we'll see you next week.
Cover 2 is back.